Today is a gorgeous June 9th, 2020. It's a California day, warm and dry. That's what I like to call days like this. Right now we're in Smithtown on the Port Jefferson Branch. I was driving around and I couldn't resist stopping by and visiting a few Port Jeff Branch horns today. What you're looking at right now are the pedestal signals from post interlocking on the east end of the siding in Smithtown, right next to the bowling alley. This was always called post. The west end of the interlocking here is post 1. That used to be called Hare, H-A-R-E, but they've consolidated the name post in both ends of the siding. And here's the Smithtown Depot. Can't give you any specifics about it because I don't have any internet access for some reason. But Smithtown is a significant stop. It's virtually in the middle of the Port Jeff Branch between Huntington and Port Jeff. It's the southernmost point on the Port Jeff Branch. And roughly every hour and a half during normal operations, trains meet here. And we're standing alongside Platform B, and Platform A is on the other side. Platform B is used primarily for westbounds, and Platform A is for eastbounds. Chicago Northwestern style, left-hand running. Yeah, looking west, the tracks go over Route 25/25A. They're combined through town briefly. On the other side, the tracks drop down a long grade, and around the corner, you can see a signal bridge. That's post 1. And Smithtown, as you can see, is on milepost 47, measured from Long Island City. Eastbound trains coming in here have somewhat of a difficult time coming into the station. When they cross over the trestle down near the 25/25A split where the Bull Monument is, they start climbing up a stiff grade until they reach the top right in the middle of this overpass. And on the way up, they have to adhere to a 30-mile-an-hour code and a 15-mile-an-hour code. Very tricky. And this is Route 25/25A going under the Port Jeff Branch overpass here. Not sure what's going on, but there are a lot of 4th Precinct Suffolk County police officers here putting up barricades. Well, you're looking west at the position light signals on the signal bridge guarding post 1, which you can see in the background where it goes back to single track and continues down the grade. You can clearly see where the track going eastbound reaches the summit right over the highway overpass. And at 2:49 p.m. I can hear an eastbound coming up the grade into Smithtown. Here he is. Gonna have a meet here. And he'll stop at the station and wait for the westbound. Clear. And the westbound is coming in at 2:52. He just blew for the Landing Avenue crossing east of the station. He's got a clear track. He'll be going down the hill. And he's just departed the station, heading downhill, heading towards Huntington. All the police cars that were here 15 minutes ago are gone. They erected some barricades around Katie's. Maybe they're setting it up for outdoor dining, which will be in vogue starting tomorrow. And here at Smithtown Station, waiting for 654 and 655 to meet here. At 4:31, we got Channel 2 News and Channel 4 News trucks here. I don't know what they're here for. Incidentally, the Smithtown Depot building that I showed you earlier, the station was built here in 1872 for the Smithtown and Port Jefferson Railroad. It was rebuilt in 1937 and has gone through various metamorphoses since then. Should have some activity around here in about another 6 minutes. There's 654 from Huntington to Port Jeff. We'll meet 655 from Port Jeff to Jamaica. I get a kick out of this car marker on track 2 at the east end of Smithtown Station. When do they ever have trains that long on this branch? They used to when they had the Jeep 38s pulling the standard cars. Heck, I remember trains years ago when I was a kid that were as long as 17 cars during the rush hour. Here comes 655. And coming in first is 655 en route from Port Jeff to Jamaica. He's going to be sitting here waiting for 654 to come in. And here comes 654 going over the top there. Medium clear. And off he goes eastbound. Next stop, St. James. And we're at the next station east, and this is a real gem. This is St. James. This old depot is the oldest operating Long Island Railroad facility. It was built in 1873 by Calvin Lamadou. It's a French name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It was built for the Smithtown and Port Jefferson Railroad. That would look nice hanging in my living room. And at 5:07, approaching St. James is train 656 en route from Hunters Point Avenue to Port Jefferson. As of yesterday, the Long Island Railroad more or less went back on a weekday schedule again. It's good to see these trains again. But it's not a completely full weekday schedule. 662 is the only rush hour train that doesn't run through here these days. Eastbound just cleared the Lake Avenue grade crossing. And now further east of St. James at the Mill Pond Road crossing. We're right around the defunct Flower Field station, which was closed in 1958. Served the Gyrodyne Corporation. Approaching the Mill Pond Road crossing is train 658 en route from Penn Station, New York to Port Jefferson. Now further east at the historic Stony Brook Depot. It was built in 1873 for the Smithtown and Port Jefferson Railroad, although some say it was built in 1888, but it was rebuilt in 1917, and it's recently been restored to its former grandeur. To the east are the position light signals on the signal bridge guarding Stony 2 interlocking. On the west end of the station is Stony 1. This interlocking was installed at least a couple of decades ago. Prior to that, it was a block limit station. The call letters were BK. As a child, we used to eat in a restaurant just west of the station platform here called the Firehouse. Like in 1963, I saw Fairbanks Morse Sea Liners with rush hour trains, 17 cars long. This station directly serves the large State University of New York of Stony Brook. Huge campus, also has a huge hospital. This station does a lot of business, college students from that school. Yeah, looking east, the gates are going down at 6:12. Approaching train is the equipment for train 657, which originates out of here and goes to Huntington. Runs as a deadhead move from Port Jefferson to here. This train will be sitting here for about 35 minutes before he goes. This is the proverbial salmon fighting upstream. I'll explain later. And this train will be sitting here until 6:49 p.m. Like I said, it's the railroad's equivalent of the salmon fighting upstream. Normally he waits until 6:62 clears here, but 6:62 isn't running right now, so he'll leave around 6:49. He's going to meet 6:64 in Smithtown. He's going to meet 6:66 in Kings Park, and he's going to meet 6:68 at Duke, east of Northport. So if you're in a hurry to get to the city, you don't want to take this train. And at Stony 2, he's got a clear signal for train 660. Should be in about another 12 minutes. And approaching at 6:19 is train 660. The route from Penn Station, New York to Port Jefferson. The second and last of the through jobs from New York. Great to see these trains again. And we're further east at East Setauket at the Hulse Road crossing. Very pastoral setting. From Stony Brook to Port Jefferson, the branch climbs a significant grade, and it goes through a lot of wooded areas. The speed limit through here is 30 miles an hour. And at 7:30 p.m. approaching is train 664 from Hunters Point Avenue to Port Jeff. And our location is at the Bayless Avenue crossing in Port Jefferson. Looking west where the switches and tracks come together is Jeff Interlocking. Looking east, this is the remnant of the old storage yard here at Port Jefferson. You'll notice a couple of cuts of cars of concrete ties that'll probably be installed on this branch pretty soon. Before they opened the new Port Jefferson yard east of Columbia Street in the late 90s, lots of equipment was stored in these tracks here. Crossing you see in the background, far distant, that's Route 112/25A. And right after that is the Port Jefferson station. And at 7:57 p.m., he's in the home stretch now as train 666, en route from Hunters Point Avenue, Long Island City, to Port Jefferson. We'll be rounding the curve, approaching Jeff Interlocking. . And he's arriving right on time, 8 o'clock. Here's one of the prettiest stations on the Long Island Railroad. This is Port Jefferson. The station was built in 1903. It was designed by a resident of Belterre, an upscale community nearby, as a lot of the houses in that area have similar architecture to this. Port Jefferson was reached in 1873 by the Smithtown and Port Jefferson Railroad. In 1895, the line was extended east to Wading River, but it was cut back to Port Jefferson again in 1938. The station has been nicely restored. Many have questioned the wisdom of ripping up the tracks to Wading River, as the towns east of here have grown up tremendously and there's lots of traffic on 25A. But to rebuild the line out to Wading River again would require the demolition of lots of houses.
Okay, look. You guys taking the train?
I've been here since, I don't know how.
And here's the position light signal looking west from Port Jefferson. That's the beginning of the block. This is Jeff Interlocking. That's what that signal is connected to. It's 8:07 p.m. and I can hear train 668 coming. He's not too far behind 666. Beautiful station. And the crossing here is Route 112/25A. The station here in Port Jefferson is not in Port Jefferson, it's in Port Jefferson Station. Port Jefferson Village itself is about a mile down a steep hill from here, right near the Sound. And here comes 668. It's early. It's 8:09 p.m. This is the last through train from the New York City area. The end of the rush hour. And looking north toward the Long Island Sound, soon the road will be dropping down a very steep grade. The station is not in one of the greatest of neighborhoods.